It's that time of year again. The leaves are falling, the air is chilly, and you are yearning to play a stealth archer once again. Only this time, we're going to do it on a different game. For possibly my last build for Inquisition, I wanted to make a fully ranged character. Pretty much every single build in this game relies on getting into close range to annihilate your enemies. I wanted to make one for the people out there who like to lurk around in the back of the fights, picking off enemies one by one away from the danger. Therefore, this build will not be abusing rogue favorites such as Leaping Shot, Throwing Blades, or Pincushion. Of course, if you're looking for the easiest Nightmare run, then definitely use the other rogue builds on the channel. Before I get into the build, I did want to mention that with Veilguard on the way, I have started a Discord to have build crafting discussions and talk about the game on. When starting this channel a month back, I could have never dreamed of the support that has come in this quickly. Thank you so much to everyone who has liked, commented, subscribed, or even just lurked on a few videos. One of my biggest reasons for creating a channel was also to create a community for everyone to come in and talk about games, so please do join. The link will be in the description. Lastly, I will be ripping my hair out, streaming Veilguard on Nightmare on launch throughout the weekend, so feel free to stop by to hang out. This build plays very similarly to the dual wield assassin build that is already on the channel, except instead of sneaking up behind enemies, we'll be doing it from afar, picking off enemies one by one, making them wonder if it was just a wind. You will very rarely go into close range and will spend most of your time sending high damaging arrows into the hearts of the enemies. Let's start with the early game. As I've mentioned with all of my rogue videos, the early game is rough. You do not have the crit, attack, or any of the stats to deal high damage, which is pretty much all rogues are good for. You won't quite be a full-blown stealth archer until you acquire the assassin spec, so for the early game, you'll spend a lot of time in the backline plinking down enemies. Our main abilities will be long shot, explosive shot, full draw, and stealth. Long shot will be our primary and most used ability throughout the game. This ability deals more damage the further from the targets we get. This reinforces our primary playstyle of staying the absolute largest distance from enemies as we can. This ability maxes out on damage when shooting over 25 meters, so that is the range we're going to try to play at. It deals very high damage and is on a low cooldown, so it'll be our most used ability. Try to combo this ability against incapacitated foes for very large damage. Explosive Shot is more of a utility spell. Obviously use this when enemies are grouped, but it's also the only real form of CC in this build. Use this to knock enemies over that might be bothering you, or your fellow backliners. This is extremely nice for enemies with shields because those assholes will block everything you have if you do not knock them over first. In the late game, this is basically all I use it for. Stealth is very important to this build. It is called a stealth archer for a reason after all. Use this ability almost on cooldown. Not only does it lose aggro on you, but more importantly for this build, it gives us a 50% damage boost when leaving stealth, which when combined with full draw and long shot leads to very high damage arrows. Full draw is our nuclear option. This ability deals an insane 1600% weapon damage to enemies who are at full health. When this is combined with stealth, this becomes a devastating opening ability on any target you want dead. One very important caveat to know about the full draw stealth combo is that when you use full draw, you leave stealth during the animation, which you might think is anti-synergistic. However, stealth works in this game on ability press and not when the attack actually deals damage. So basically what I'm trying to say is, do not worry if it looks like you're losing out on stealth damage when you use full draw, because you're not. For the early game armor, craft all offensive gear as you will need to squeeze out every last drop of the damage you can find early on, slotting crit chance, damage, dexterity, and cunning. You should pretty much never be under threat or taking damage unless your team is dead, in which case you'll be having bigger issues. We will be in stealth or be very far back in the fight 99% of the time. This build also includes evade, which is also a useful defensive option in niche situations. Now let's talk about the assassin specialization. While most of our core spells come from the archer tree, this rogue specialization is the best at enhancing the long distance, high damage playstyle. It gives us a few abilities and passives that will increase our overall damage output, which is all we want. Hidden Blades is one of the highest damaging single abilities in the game. And after upgrade, this goes up to 1800% with the extra 3 hits. This ability is pretty much a point and click to kill whatever you happen to be aiming at. The next ability we have is Mark of Death. We will use this to kill high health targets quickly. This ability marks our target and makes every hit and ability we use power up the mark's damage until it detonates, dealing very high damage. This does more damage if you manually detonate the ability yourself, so always make sure to keep an internal 8-second clock to detonate it early before it automatically does it itself. The easiest application for Mark of Death with this build would be Mark into Stealth, then use full draw, use hidden blades, then activate mark again, while weaving in autos. The passives Knife in the Shadows and Throat Cutter both bolster our damage significantly. Throat Cutter basically operates as an execute, giving us significantly more damage the lower the enemy health gets. So if the enemy is somehow tanky enough to survive your initial full draw, this ability will kick in and make them much easier to kill. Knife in the Shadows guarantees us a crit every time we leave stealth, which further bolsters our absurd damage numbers. Using Longshot and Full Draw with this leads to nutty damage numbers and is also super synergistic with our next passive, I Was Never Here. I Was Never Here is what makes all assassin builds go. Having the ability to use stealth more often, losing aggro, and getting the damage boost is incredibly strong. After you get a kill, this passive resets your stealth cooldown, allowing you to use it again, pretty much allowing us to be in constant stealth and giving us a 50% damage boost more often. The way this build works is fairly simple, as it is just a simple archer at the end of the day, which is what we're aiming for. Use stealth, and then full draw whatever target is looking at you funny. Reuse stealth again, and then either use Longshot or hidden blades depending on the situation. Then pretty much repeat for the entire fight until all the enemies are dead. If you are able to, obviously wipe out the mages and archers first with your high damaging spells. This build makes it quite easy to reach them and kill them quickly. After all, you are an assassin. The cooldowns on this build can feel long, but you can sit in stealth to wait for them, or just start blasting with your arrows. You can pretty much just pick targets off one by one with stealth, if you're patient enough to wait for cooldowns. Lastly, before we get to equipment, I will say I built this build with the intention of keeping you as far from the fight as possible. However, if you like to use Leaping Shot occasionally, you absolutely can feel free to dip into that side of the archer tree to snag it. It's a super powerful ability and it would make this build much stronger. I just wanted to leave it out to show that you do not need Leaping Shot or Throwing Blades in an archer build for it to be fine. For armor, we will use the Superior Skirmisher Hat and Superior Prowler Armor, as those give us the most offense. Go with only crit damage and not crit chance, as we will be getting a free crit after leaving stealth from the Knife in the Shadows passive. Stack up that crit damage for huge numbers. For the ring, amulet, and belt, those will all be acquired from various locations and are not able to be crafted. Use Elgar Non Anast for the bow. If you do not have the golden nug, it will not be obtainable until very late in the game. So use the Grunsman's bow instead, which is acquired from the Black Emporium. As always with my build videos, there will be a link in the description to the full leveling guide. While you're there, don't be afraid to click the Discord link and be the start of a new community. Let me know what you think about the build in the comments down below, and please click the like button if this video was helpful. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.